first of all, I want to thank you, NASSCOM, most sincerely for not cancelling on us in this very difficult time and holding the event here. That is one of the best things you did for us. We have not fallen. We've received a blow, but we are far from fallen. We are far from sort of inundated by this tragedy. We are moving forward. You mentioned the word resilience, and I think that describes Sri Lankans and Sri Lankan spirit. If there's anything, it's resilience, and I would say it's generosity. Generosity of spirit, which is always what has come to our rescue in all of our disasters. And we faced quite a few, in my lifetime too. So if you may have noticed that after the major impact, the 3-4 days, we are beginning to recover. We evacuated quite a lot of people into safe spaces, but now we are in the next stage of the operation, which is basically cleaning up, getting people back to their homes. And then, of course, there's a massive mid to long-term program about resettlement, better disaster preparedness, disaster mitigation, flood control, all of these issues, which our government was anyway working on, but now this whole devastation has made that even more of a priority for us. We are in the middle of doing an assessment. The World Bank and the UN are helping us. We are looking at this recovery also as an opportunity to rebuild, and to rebuild better, and to rebuild in a way that we can respond better and also manage these disasters better, but also prevent. If I am to speak specifically about the sector that you are interested in, the government has set ourselves a target of 7% growth in the medium to long term. We have about 6 priorities for our economy moving forward. I'm not going to mention them all, but the 2 that are most relevant to you. One is export diversification and the digital economy. So this is where I think we need your support and your collaboration and your partnership. Our targets in the technology sector is also, you spoke of a $300 billion industry. We are thinking of a $5 billion industry. That's peanuts for you, right? That makes me even more positive. This is the target for us by 2030, so we have time for this. We are looking at 75,000 new jobs for the industry. Also involves the training and the readiness, the human resources. So this is also a big part of our plans moving forward. Obviously, this $5 billion target we cannot meet locally, right? And if we are to meet these targets, then we need investment. We need Sri Lanka to become a destination for expansion of the IT industry regionally. And this is what we are projecting. This is what we are hoping SLASSCOM and NASSCOM together can discuss and come up with some concrete ideas and proposals for how we can do this. In order to make this process easier, we are also working on a regulatory framework, our policy frameworks. All of this is also happening simultaneously. A big part of that is our whole governance model, which is focused on a clean government, on efficient government. Again, we are working closely with the Indian government on digitalizing our public sector. We've already started that work. And that's a big part of the reform process that we've undertaken.
We make drones that help in surveillance, disaster recovery, and geospatial management applications. And I wanted to offer our help in whatever way we can, so that we can help in this rebuilding effort, documentation effort, and ensure that you, sitting wherever you are, have an eye on every location that needs help and support, and it can truly make the effort very efficient and effective.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you, because I think this is one of the most critical areas where we need to do better. So that is an area that we are really looking at. So that would be really wonderful. So we take this very seriously because we see this as a huge area of growth potential for Sri Lanka. And if you look at our economy as a whole, and if we want to make that leap towards a 7%, 8% growth, right? We are a small country with a small market. We need to be able to really use our human resources well. And our human resources is our biggest strength that we have. This is where we can really make the change, make the transformation possible. And IT is an area that huge potential for doing that because we are already very smartly in it, but we are not expanding enough. Our best brains are actually serving elsewhere. This is what we want to change, and I think this is the path that India followed as well, right?
Absolutely.
This is exactly the path that India followed, and we have learned from that. But at the same time, we also recognize that, technology is changing so quickly, it's not going to be enough for us to wait for our own industries to be able to take that initiative and grow. So why not make use of our big neighbor across this Park Straits, right, who's already got there? Why don't we encourage you to look upon us as a destination for your growth, right? It's a win-win situation, I think, for both parties. And I can assure you that this is a great place to live and work.
Some parts of the Indian IT industry grew because the government mandated use of technology. For example, a generation ago, all banks had to computerize. For the amount, for example, the government computerized in, say, the railways ministry, etc., etc. So to the extent that obviously your system allows you to encourage local businesses to invest in technology, then the industry grows to support that, and obviously over time that industry becomes mature enough, strong enough to take its products, take its services globally as well there.
Certainly the government mandated use of IT, this is something that we are really working on. We are working on the universal digital ID. This is due to this will take off next year, right? Yes, and again we are working with the Indian government on that, and then transfer of lot of management, lot of administration to online platforms. This is also happening. For instance, in my ministry, we are working right now on setting up a national education management system, right, which was talked of for many years but never happened, but now it's finally happening. And there was initial resistance, right, because there was skepticism that how is a remote school somewhere in the north of Sri Lanka going to be able to connect? And we said, no, we can, we will. So with help from the digital ministry, also the digital economy ministry, who's been working with us on ensuring that all our schools and all our education zonal officers are connected, we are hoping to launch that in January as well. So I know that every ministry is working on these platforms, on making sure that government is on board with this. And I think the private sector already is, but we now need to make sure that this becomes a part of our daily life. So whether it's buying, your bus ticket or your railway ticket, that all of these become naturally sort of things that we start using technology for. We saw what is happening in India, where your Sabji wala is also kind of, using the phone to do his transactions. So why not in Sri Lanka, where we have almost 92% literacy across the board, equally among men and women. So we have that huge advantage as well, right?
One of the things that we are looking across the world is the gap between the provider and the number of patients. If you look at WHO, it says that you have to have 44.5 providers for 10,000 kind of patients. And if you look at countries like ours and Sri Lanka, we have a big gap out there. Now, one of the things that pandemic helped us is to really focus on digital when it comes to healthcare. And given the calamities that we have here, I think bringing the digital into healthcare is going to make a huge difference.
This is something we are looking at in each sector. So healthcare, certainly, how we can do this, how we can digitalize to improve patient care, but also patient service provider relationship, in a more efficient way, whether it's delivery of medication to, again, the advantage we have is that we have a really strong public health network, which is reached by, I would say, 90% of our population. So they are already in contact with the service provider. So making this contact digitally enabled is just almost a natural next step. So this is something, again, that we are working on. We are setting up primary health care centers which will be digitized so that patient records, all of this is then enabled and easily available so that even if a person moves locations, that remains accessible to whichever service provider he or she wants to go to. So all of these things are being discussed and are initiated. So this is where I think your expertise would also be immensely useful. So, I mean, if I may throw a question back at all of you.
We want to make sure that we somehow bring that platform, or if not the whole platform, at least a part of it, and work with Sri Lanka to ensure that we are able to train and skill people at scale. And to do that, we would need your support, and of course we will work with SLASCOM, and our ministry is our mission here, especially Devika from the High Commission, is very deeply involved in working with agencies within Sri Lanka to do this. But we would need your support, Madam Prime Minister. So
this is something that we are really looking at strengthening, and we realize that this is our future. I think our challenge is that it's not just catching up that we have to do, it's preparation for the future, right? Especially because of how fast things are changing with AI. And I have lots of questions about AI, right? Lots of questions that are unanswered, and I think we need good discussions on that as well. I mean, I think AI is amazing, and what it is, the potential is amazing, but I am also a bit scared of it. About what kind of impact, social, political impact this can have. So I think understanding the boundaries or the limits of AI is also really important. Be ready for what is going to happen, not just be ready for what's going to happen, but be actually part of that. Absolutely. That part of that change, and making that change possible also. So this is the I think the real challenge that we are facing right now. And the other thing that we also want to ensure is, again, this is one of our national priorities, that whatever we do is inclusive and sustainable. Right? That's one of the fundamental principles that guide our policies. So we want to be able to, we don't want this transformation that we are anticipating to reproduce the kinds of structural problems that we've faced as a country over the past 75 years. Right? So we want to ensure that this change actually benefits those who've been left out. So whether it is people who are who have been affected by the war and who've been left behind in development, particular communities, like the plantation sector, the Malayalam community, which have historically suffered or fallen behind, right? Whether it's women, whether it's the rural areas, whether it's the disabled, we want to make sure that all of them are part of this journey moving forward. And again, we think IT has the potential to be a good leveler, or a good force for ensuring equity if done properly, and if that principle of inclusivity and sustainability is built into it. Right? So this is also really important for us.
if you have, please do join.
செய்திகளை உடனுக்குடன் தெரிந்து கொள்ள உடனே சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்க.